Dream Spinner Press presents Savior, Book 2 in the 415 Inc. series, by Rhys, narrated by Tristan James. One. Mason couldn't remember the last time he'd eaten, but that was normal. Money was tight, so food was scarce. Something his 10-year-old mind accepted without question. That was a lesson he'd learned a long time ago. He'd also learned to be thankful for the shelter he'd been given. Complaining only strained his father's already frazzled nerves, and Mason still clearly remembered how deeply the cold had gotten into him when he'd been taken up to the rooftop and left there overnight, something he'd driven his father to do because he hadn't been grateful for what he had. His ribs and hips ached with the memory of the frost and the bitter wind he'd been unable to hide from that night. When the sun got too high in the sky, Mason had wondered if he'd been forgotten and would have to suffer another night in the frigid winter weather. But the heavy steel door had cracked open, and his father's gruff voice ordered him to hurry up and get inside. It had been too hard to walk. His limbs were unresponsive, but Mason knew that if he didn't move, the door would close and that imagined night would become real. He crawled past his father's legs, and his knees caught on his heavy work boots, but he made it inside before the door closed. His life was made up of closed doors, hunger, and now an impenetrable silent darkness. This time the hunger was different. This time it came with a thirst Mason couldn't shake, and a fear that pressed in on him with a fierce, monstrous will. He couldn't hear anything or see anything in the close confines of the closet his father had shoved him into. "Stay there," his father ordered. "Don't make any fucking noise until I let you out. You understand?" Mason barely had time to nod before the door closed and he heard it lock. A small inconsequential click that shut his world down and left him in a 3x3 space with nothing but his own breathing to keep him company. He did everything he normally did to pass the time when left to himself, and then he slept. Anything to avoid the dead silence. His hunger grew, but the silence never broke. It was impossible to tell what day it was, or even how long he'd been behind the closet door. Even when he accidentally kicked one of the walls when his cramped legs spasmed uncontrollably, his father didn't respond. No matter what, his father...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?